Major funding for this program was made possible by UPMC. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Mayor Corey O'Connor. This is a special edition of Conversations with Coach Cowher. I'm so excited to do this. Growing up, Coach Cowher was the Steelers head coach when I was a little kid. Got to meet him a number of times, got to go to so many games, but he was very inspirational to a lot of us. He represents our city wherever he goes, and he wears it on his sleeve. And I couldn't ask for a better ambassador to Pittsburgh than Coach Cowher. So I'm interested to have him in the hot seat today and talk a lot about the issues that he grew up with and talk about how great Pittsburgh is. Coach, thank you for sitting down with me. I'm lucky to be not in the hot seat, and I get to hold Coach's feet to the fire because this is his show, but I get to host today. Thank you for all these conversations that you're having because it's important to tell the Pittsburgh story. So, first question, we went back in our records and found that you had 2 unpaid parking tickets around Heinz Field. So knowing that the city has some financial trouble, we will mail you those tickets if you don't mind.
I total oversight on my part, Mayor. Sorry.
You're okay. You're good. Okay. Park wherever you want. When you win a Super Bowl, you can park wherever you want.
That's right.
But on behalf of the residents of Pittsburgh, being a Pittsburgh person, why was it so important for you to do this show to talk about our city?
Just growing up there and having the opportunity to come back and coach there and win that 5th Super Bowl for the city was so special to me. And last year I had a chance to talk about the U.S. Open when it came to Oakmont and talked about that. And the opportunity was presented to me by the group at WQED and to talk about, sit down, maybe have conversations with a lot of people who grew up in Pittsburgh and maybe some of the core values that you had and how that maybe navigated or formed your journey through whatever careers you were in. And you go back and look at it and it was a great opportunity to talk to so many athletes that have come from there in so many different sports, particularly even going back to even Rocco Mediate and Carol Simple Thompson last year when we talked about the U.S. Open. But I think the other concept was Pittsburgh is more than sports. I mean, there's a great diversity of culture there and people that were so successful in elements of life. But you're going to find that no matter what you do, the same core values that you grew up in Pittsburgh existed no matter what journey you took. Whether you started to branch off, you hit that fork in the road, we all might have gone one way, somebody else went another way, but you find yourself kind of resonating back to the way you were brought up, to what about the grit, the determination, the passion, the hard work, the humility, the sense of giving back, all the things that you were born and raised to understand as being a part of who you are as an individual. Pick a career. Don't be defined by it. Be defined by who you're able to touch along the way of that journey. And I think in talking to this, and honestly, Mayor, I said, it's amazing when you hear all the different people, the same messaging exists, the same core values are right there, the same culture that they grew up in at some point helped shape who they were.
And Coach, I think you make the best point is we are the best salespeople for Pittsburgh. As you said, people boomerang out, and so many, unfortunately have left over the years, but they are selling Pittsburgh to the whole world. And I think that's what you talk about, the grit, the heart, how we were raised. It stays with you. And as you mentioned, I mean, some of your interviews aren't just sports.
No.
And I think that's the important part. As you say, Pittsburgh's in a lot of things that people just don't give us credit for anymore.
No question about it. And I said, you think about the people that have left and how they sometimes come back. Joe Manganiello, Mott Lebanon guy, goes to L.A. Now he's moving back into the area. But I said, you can always take people out of Pittsburgh, but you'll never take the Pittsburgh out of people. And I think you go back to the same thing because, I was always starting all these conversations where I'd go back to like, give me your favorite Pittsburgh food, and everyone says Primanti Brothers. I would say it's Isley's Chipped Ham for me personally.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's part of the rapid fire. So you're in the hot seat.
Okay, great.
Technically, this is the city show right now, so you're on the hot seat with these questions.
Yes.
So favorite food, that's gone. Isley's Chip Chopped Ham.
Yes.
Great call.
Yes.
And then what is your favorite Pittsburgh word?
So my mom used to always say, go right up the room. And I never realized what she meant, okay? Or you say, go downtown. And so I still go downtown. And obviously, if you're going to go with a bunch of your friends, you're going with yens. I'm going with the yens. So you're a yenser. And the one thing I never wanted to be called was a jagoff. So I said, so these were, so I made sure that didn't take place.
Well, you're spot on those words. Nobody wants to be a jagoff ever. No. So when there are visitors coming, what would be the first place you take them in Pittsburgh?
Well, certainly Three Rivers Stadium, Heinz Field, Acrisure now, all in the same area, same spot. Personally, there's two places. First one is Civic Arena, which is now PBG, I think, Arena. And I remember going down there on Sunday afternoons, and we would go see the Duquesne Dukes play, okay? And they would play on Sunday afternoons. I used to, be honest with you, I used to try to sneak in at times because I didn't have the money, so I would go run behind a family, and three of us would take the Pat bus down from Crafton. We would go to the Civic Arena. We'd all try to go to different gates to go in. And every now and then you got in there. So you sit there and say, Dad, you forgot me. So you run in, you run past the person, I'm with them. And so most of the time it worked. Every now and then we lost one along the way. He got caught.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
But my favorite place, to be honest with you, Kennywood. Kennywood to me was a day, I remember when they used to sell the tickets at high school. So you get all your roll tickets that you could buy at your school for that day out. And I just remember keeping money and saving money so I could work up and buy as many tickets as I could. Some of the rides took 4 tickets, some took 2 tickets, but I get there and the first place I went to was the Jackrabbit for the roller coaster. So I love Kennywood.
You don't fall off the Jackrabbit.
Yeah. You want to get on the one that won, right? So it's like.
Right, exactly. The racer and everything. Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned sneaking into the Duquesne games. I will tell you, most of the Monday night games when you coach, I snuck in with my dad. So we at Three Rivers, he had season tickets in the little pop-out in the end zone, home plate. Yeah. And he would always go and he would have one rip ticket, and it was from a Miami Dolphins game from 2 years prior. He would put that below his ticket, and I would go first. And he said, run as fast as you can. I'll meet you at the seats. So, old school Pittsburgh, everybody did it. And there was always that ticket taker that somebody knew or grew up with, and you tried to get to that aisle.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the greatest thing about Pittsburghers. We find a way to work every system that's out there. Sometimes it's just about winning, and so.
Right, yeah.
And when you get in,
to the game,
you get 2 people in for 1 ticket, that's a win.
Oh, it's a huge win. Yeah, it's a bonus, yeah. So it's amazing how the stories don't change.
No.
So we'll get a little sportsy here. So what is your favorite NFL team to beat when you were coaching the Steelers?
I would say originally probably the Cleveland Browns, but without a doubt, as when they left, and that's why I say Cleveland, they turned into the Baltimore Ravens. And so I used to say they're not the Ravens, they're the Browns. So I think there's a lot of history there. When Mean Joe picked up Turkey Jones, I think, and kind of put him on his back. So, there's a lot of history. And I played for the Browns too, Mayor. Now, I played and coached
you
there.
Did. I know. With Marty. Marty was a great coach. One of the most underrated coaches. I'm sure you could talk about him for a while, but yeah.
I got to share a story with you, though. When I was with the Browns, my dad, who was a very proud father, lived in Crafton, Pennsylvania, worked for the Ohio Casualty Insurance Company. So when I was playing for the Browns, he said, I'm going to put a Brown sticker on the bumper. And I'm thinking, Dad, I'm not so sure that's a good idea. He goes, no one's going to tell me what to do as a Pittsburgher is. I'm going to be me. That's who I am. So we would play every time the Browns played Pittsburgh. We came in one time. The night before, someone would take my dad's aerial and they would turn it into a P. And my dad got so mad that every time he used to stand up at night, I'm going to catch that kid, whoever's turning my aerial into a P. I go, Dad, just take the sticker off the back of the car. It's not a big deal. I know you're pulling for me, but you don't have to do it. No one's going to tell me what to put on my car. Pittsburgher, no one's going to tell us what to do.
No, we're a little stubborn sometimes.
So that was my story with my father.
So from these conversations that you're having, what do you think a lot of these individuals, they're talking about Pittsburgh? What's sort of the common theme that they're, from Pittsburgh, but what's their theme? The grit, the determination?
Yeah.
But I get a feeling they're very excited to talk about it.
They are very excited to talk about it, and I think they're very proud to talk about it. I think that's the one thing that I go back to saying is that as much as they have accomplished, a guy like Antoine Fuqua, the multiple films he's made, Mark Cuban, started his entrepreneurship at a very young age up in Mount Lebanon, Swin Cash, Billy Gardell, and I mean what he's done, Joe Manganiello, what he's done. He's actually moved back into to Pittsburgh, and so they all talk about basically the same thing: the lessons learned from growing up in Pittsburgh. Not that there weren't mistakes along the way, but I think some of the great mistakes we make are nothing more than lessons learned. You just don't make the same mistake twice. But the opportunity, the people you're able to be around, the diversity of not just neighborhoods, of opportunity, the arts, the sports, the cultural part of food, what food has brought to this kind of industry, and certainly you look at the medical industry, the tech industry. There's so many elements of it today that, again, everyone's not there now, but everyone will tell you that growing up in Pittsburgh was an integral part of the journey that they've had and the success that they've enjoyed along the way. And I love going back and hearing their stories, and I love going back talking to them about it. It's like going down memory lane for me, and it's the same core values, the same lessons learned, the same ingrained work ethic that you had, that you understood, and that's the bottom line. It's all about work ethic. No one's going to have anything handed to you, and you learn at a very early age. You get what you earn, and you have to work at it. And and so that is taught very early in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point is, we all come from the same general background. We might have been in different neighborhoods.
Right.
But what I find interesting is how many people from Pittsburgh are rooting for the person from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And, you're interviewing people that you may have met in the past, but now that you know they're from Pittsburgh, you're rooting for their movie to do well, for their stand-up to do well. And I think that's unique that not many cities have that.
You know what? And the other thing, Mayor, is I feel like some of these people I've interviewed, I've just met them for the first time as we're talking right now. When I got done with that conversation of 35, 45 minutes, I've got their address, I've got their cells. I just met a new friend. It's right. A new friend that we have a lot more in common than we even knew. And that, what, next time I'm in LA, next time I'm down in Florida, next time I'm in wherever it is, let's get together. And I think those are conversations that we kind of look forward to. So I said, every one of these conversations I've had, it's like meeting a new friend. And so my circle of friends has grown.
Yeah, and it's great. As you mentioned, when we can talk football for a second, but when you're in LA, when you're in San Diego, when you're in Texas, there's a Steeler bar or a Steeler connection at some point. And it's just, that there are Pittsburghers that they left for some reason. Yeah. But they just love it. And it's something that to try to explain to somebody that's not from Pittsburgh, they just don't get it. What kind of advice do you have a first-time visitor, besides places to go, but just breathe it all in and take in the experience and the people, number one?
I just think standing up on top of Mount Washington at some point to look down upon that city, to see the confluence of three rivers, the Monongahela, the Allegheny that goes into the Ohio, the Point Park right there, the stadiums that are all kind of right there. You have the theater downtown. It's a city of boroughs and communities connected by bridges. And, you know, we have more bridges than Venice. I mean, come on. I mean, so, I mean, it is such a unique place. It's such a diverse place, but it's such a competitive, and we all become very, very protective of our own individual places. You learn about competition. You learn about, you know, when you represent Carlington High School, and I'm going up against Still Rocks or going up against Burgestown, you know what, that's a big deal. So, you know, you learn about winning and losing early and about the pride that you carry with everything you do. You know, it's so funny when I came back to coach the Steelers, having left, and I'd go up to training camp and I'd sit there after training camp, after Latrobe, sign some autographs. But you go sign an autograph somewhere else, they give it to you, give it back. In Pittsburgh, they all kind of like, good job, coach. They want to hit you or touch you. Like, you're one of them. I forgot how much really touchy Pittsburghers are. And it's like, give me a hug. Okay, sure. I'm not sure I know who you are, but that's fine. So we're Pittsburghers, right?
You're part of the family. When you're a Pittsburgher, you're part of the family. We're gonna invite you in for a dinner. We're gonna do various things like that, just on the spur of the moment. And I think that's something that we should never change. Somebody asked me the other day, you know, how are you going to grow Pittsburgh? And I said, we just have to be Pittsburgh.
Right.
People want to be around that vibe.
Just go to as many places as you can, you know, and I think even the downtown, like go down to the Strip District, go over to the South Side, you know, just sit there and enjoy the Point Park and that area down there and, you know, Station Square. I mean, so there's just so many different parts of it. And I said, it's so kind of community, there's so many different sections that everyone will feel a little bit different. But you'll have the same vibe. You'll feel the same warmth. You'll still feel the same sense of pride of everything that we do down there. We want you to have a good time here and just understand who we are. And we're very proud to be from here. Very proud people. And I think you see that pride. And when you hear about people who grew up here, even though they've left, like I said before, I think the best thing I can say is you can take people out of Pittsburgh, but once you've been here, you'll never take the Pittsburgh out of people.
No, and that's the best part, is we have that connection. It's like a internal fraternity that not many cities have.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, they probably come up to you often because, you know, I'm 41, so you were the coach growing up. And a lot of, you know, kids growing up my age, you know, you were the football coach. So, you know, they're probably looking at you like, okay, is he going to, you know, jar me out a little bit, but I kind of need that. And by the way, that's the tough love that we loved about Pittsburgh and the grit, as you said. And, you know, I actually remember, wasn't a great game, but we ended up losing when they Jacksonville blocked the field goal.
Yeah.
And you were a little animated. My dad literally got off the couch because it was highlighted 10 times. Like, good for him. I would have, you know, like, that's the type of, you know, pride we have, is don't ever count us out.
No.
And if something bad happens, you want to show emotion. People want to know that you're going to fight for your team and your family and your city. And that's something that is hard to pass on to anybody unless they're from Pittsburgh or they have the story that you had.
Yeah.
You know, growing up and being able to coach your hometown team is tremendous.
And it's passion. It's the passion that we have for life. You know, I think anything you do in Pittsburgh, you learn to appreciate it. You learn about hard work. And you know what? You learn that you're not defined by how many times you get knocked down. You're defined by how many times you continue to get back up. Resiliency. You know, we're all going to have setbacks. We're going to have those tough conversations. Don't take it so personal. I got done with one of the conversations I had. I said, you know, what's funny is when someone told me I couldn't do something, that's all I needed to hear. Oh, you can't win it. You can't win a championship as a 6th seed. No one's ever done it before. Oh, we can't. Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you for saying that. I didn't realize that was part of history, but now let me change history. So it's just, tell me I can't do something to a Pittsburgh person, and it's going to like roll up my sleeves. Let me just do this, okay? And I'll show you why I can.
Right. And I think that's the MO that the whole city has. I mean, when we talk to companies and people that are saying, well, why would I come to Pittsburgh? My answer is, why aren't you in Pittsburgh?
Right.
Like, you're missing out. And I think that's something that, you know, by you being, you know, obviously worldwide at this point, but like telling that story, is there anything unique that when you talk to somebody about Pittsburgh, their perspective is something that's absolutely wrong and you have to try to correct them a little bit?
Yeah, I think sometimes people think, oh, you guys are arrogant a little bit to the point where you guys think you're from Pittsburgh and you're this or that. And I'm going, you got to be careful with arrogance, with confidence. I think that there's a humility that we all have as well, an appreciation we have for opportunity. But we're not going to lack confidence. We're not going to lack, you may beat me today, but I'm going to beat you tomorrow. You may not, you can sit there and quantify, you can value talent, but the one thing you can't quantify is hard work. You may have more talent than me, but you're not going to outwork me. So a lot of times I used to say, we may not be the best team that's out there, but no one's going to work harder than we are. And we're not going to allow any setbacks to determine our fate. No one else is going to, don't define us. Somebody else, the narrative may be what you want it to be. We control the narrative in Pittsburgh. We define ourselves. We let our actions speak a lot louder than our words. Humility is a part of who we are, but accomplishment is who we are as well. We like winning. Absolutely. We don't like losing. And we're inspired by losing, and we're not surprised by winning.
Absolutely. And I think, that's the determination that we have because we always reinvent ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've coached teams where you're a pass-happy team, you're a run team, whatever, but the city always reinvents themselves. So, now that we're reinventing ourselves again, what advice would you have for somebody why should they pick Pittsburgh just to live and raise their kids and their families?
Core values. Core values, number one. I think number one, you go there, you have core values and you have opportunity. It's a very diverse, like I talked about before. You have medicine, you have tech, you have theater, you have sports, you have all the multiple things that you have in terms of opportunity-wise. But there's also diversity-wise. There's core value-wise about family. You talk about the Rooneys being someone, and to me, they represent the very best of what a Pittsburgher is all about. They're about faith and family, and they're about community. And so, they very strong faith, very strong family values, and it's all about giving back to the community. And I think that, to me, is what your life and purpose is all about. And I think if you can live within those parameters, you can achieve a lot of things individually, but your greatest satisfaction and gratification you will have is your ability to leave something lasting for other people. I used to always say, leave in a better place than you found it. Okay, that's something that my parents taught me. Just leave it in a better place than you found it. It doesn't mean it has to be the very best, but if you make an impact, you make a personal sacrifice, you can sit there and build something and leave your little imprint of who you are, make it a little bit of a better place than you found it. And that, to me, was the first objective. And that's how you know that no matter how you want to judge it, whatever metric you want to use, if I did that, I can walk away and I can sleep well at night.
No, that's spot on. So, and just sort of wrapping up, last question would be, from Pittsburghers that are going to watch all of these interviews and shows, what would you tell them? What do you want them to take away from this experience and hearing you interview so many other people from Pittsburgh?
Anything's possible. You have a passion for something. You have this desire for something. Don't think you can't do it. Don't let other people dictate your future. You dictate your future. You're going to hear about a lot of people who had a lot of challenges and barriers that they had to break. There's nothing you can't do without a sense of purpose, without a sense of sacrifice, and without a sense of confidence that you need to have. And you have a passion for it, go get it. You're going to see a bunch of people who may have had less than even what you had, and they've done a lot and are continuing to do more.
Yeah, no, Coach, thank you so much for the inspiration. People that see this understand your passion for the city, understand that Pittsburgh, you are Pittsburgh, wherever you take it. And I think it really came out through these conversations. And, I hope that as the special guest host. I did okay for you in this show.
You did, and let's play homage to WQED, to Fred Rogers, to what he did and what he brought to us all growing up as well. It's about what you can provide for people on public television, okay, which is what he did. He gave them hope, he gave them inspiration, and he gave them a platform. And hopefully people come away with the same sense of that when they watch this series.
Yeah, and you know, on behalf of QED and all the residents in Pittsburgh, thank you for what you've accomplished and for doing this to enlighten more people, because these are educational pieces where people are telling their stories. So as you said, somebody that had a bad day, tomorrow's a new one. Keep fighting. There's always opportunity, and Pittsburghers are there to help you no matter where you go in life. You'll always find a Pittsburgher that's willing to bring you in or make that call. And I think, you know, that's something that we want to promote nationally. And I think by you hosting these conversations, it amplifies our message that you and I know, but now the world needs to know what Pittsburgh's all about.
It's awesome, Corey. Thank you so much, Mayor. You're the best. Like father, like son, you're a chip off the old block.
Well, thank you, Coach, and thanks for doing this, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Well, now that we've wrapped up, I know how some of Coach Cowher's players feel. He was pretty intense for that interview, but he also has a lot of passion, and it's passion about Pittsburgh and where he's from, and a lot of pride. It's amazing how he grew up is how I grew up, and millions of Pittsburghers grew up that way. So can't wait to watch the full series and hear about Pittsburgh stories from a number of great Pittsburghers.
How many mistakes do it take till you leave? And I'm left with my hand and my face all